G'day everyone, this is Rangadad. Not financial advice, just the way I'm looking at the market. I added the little scroll there just to make sure you guys understand that. This is basically just me verbalizing the morning look at the markets before the start of my day. We actually performed pretty well in line with what we were talking about yesterday. We got that break of the 15-minute 200 and the reconfirmation of that, and then we've been sort of trudging up since. Yeah, I was just going to say probably a little pullback here, just because we've hit some key liquidity there. Seem to have soaked that up. Don't think it'll pick up on. Yeah. So fair chunk of liquidity in here that's just been grabbed. Yesterday when we were running up here, I thought it might go straight up there, but like I said in the Discord, what did I say? We didn't quite retest the 15-minute 200 EMA yet, but at the moment it seems like it has eyes for 68 250-ish. A ton of liquidations at that level have come into it within the last day, and there are a couple of vector candles in the area without much here and there. Oh, without much between here and there. So it would make sense. So that was around here. Said that just there. So it played out pretty well in line with what I expected there. So it did pull back. We did retest the 200 EMA, and it went to the upside, and it's taken out that liquidity. Now, that's great. Where to from here? There's a fair bit below. I guess that's kind of an interesting target. I literally just before we came on the live, I took profits. Left a little bit open just to keep track of that, but I'm probably going to look to buy the dip, I think. However we do dip. The interesting thing about this is all the way up here, open interest has been dropping. So there is people taking profits on the way up. There is a fair bit of liquidity left below on this chart as well. I think they were pretty successful in liquidations over the last couple of hours. Plenty of people getting liquidated. It's just a matter of how deep it comes on this correction or on this pullback. So 67,800. I'll see how it goes there. Just the 20 moving average on the 15-minute chart. A little bit of buying on the way up, but I don't think that'll stay in there too long. Little bit of a topping signal here. Not as strong as these ones. So could just be a quick pullback to grab some of this liquidity in here, some of the 100x longs that people have been doing at the highs. But I wouldn't I think this level here is now fairly critical. So 67,500. If we break back below that, then there's potential for it to rip to the downside. I don't think that's going to happen. I think the longer time frames of sort of suggesting that Bitcoin is done with that move to the downside. like if we close up here or even close, like even 67,500 is still going to be a closure above that previous day's candle. Momentum's still not turning to the upside here, even with this candle, but another up day and it would. We aren't out of the bullish control zone yet. By the way, some people would take above zero and below zero as bullish and bearish control zones. I don't look at it that way. But yeah, look, bullish money indicators, green. If we close around here, BBWP has pretty well reset as well. So, well, not hasn't fully reset, but it's in at a level where it's got plenty to move to the upside. So it'll be interesting. I mean, this could be a dead cat bounce, but all the underlying stuff isn't suggesting that to me. I mean, it's a good pullback on the weekly. Bit of a hammer forming. Still got another couple of days to go, but like if we're closing weekly above that value area high, still I'd be pretty bullish, I think. Weekly momentum's still up. BBWP is quite low on the weekly too, so if this runs, it could run pretty freaking hard, actually. Yeah. Just have a look how the monthly's going. So looks like October has come to the party. Again, there's still 7 days to go, but if we close below 63K, then it's probably game over for crypto for a little while. I would expect us to go a lot lower than that over the coming months, but I don't think that's going to happen. All right. I wouldn't be surprised if this month actually closes out on a new monthly high, so above whatever that is, 71,378. Would not surprise me at all. And if it's not this month, the way it's looking, it'll be November. All right, 2 days not looking as great, but it's closing soon. Momentum's still up. BBWP is still on the increase on the 2 day, actually. 5 days looking better. So longer term timeframes are definitely still pointing to the upside. Global liquidity. Why haven't we got to read? Oh, it's a weekly one. That's why. Sorry. So global liquidity's had a little bump as well. BTC longs have actually had a bit of a bump up. So people have been buying the dip in the last day. So that's a good sign. But I mean, if we just go straight up from here and this keeps increasing, then this whole system's kind of broken for the time being. It was great through this consolidation to see whether or not there was going to be more downside. I wish I had been paying attention to it at those points. It's just something I noticed towards the end here. It allowed us to get a little bit of a pullback there. But so far, it looks like, and this wasn't as violent a pullback by any means as what these have been. But so far, it's not looking good for more pullback. I could be early calling that one, but at this stage, it's looking okay. ETH longs are increasing as well. That's another thing to keep in mind. ETH longs are actually increasing quicker than Bitcoin longs at the moment. And if we just have a look at ETH chart, so ETH's been pulling back a lot harder than Bitcoin, and people have been buying in on the way down. So ETH might have found its bottom here, to be honest. It's picked up this vector candle here. ETH's probably not a bad buy at this level, to be honest. I mean, Sol is smashing it though. Sol's the breakout here. It's killing Bitcoin in terms of percentage move. 188 incoming for Sol by the look of it. I mean, we don't have a lot of vectors on the 1 day chart, but there's probably some up in this candle here, I'd say. Up in that 188 to 194-ish, 193. And then, of course, we do actually have one at 202. So Sol's probably 202 incoming, to be honest. I might even look at getting in on that. Leave Bitcoin where it is for the time being. But Sol, the strength in Sol would suggest that Bitcoin's probably got a bit to run. Some of these altcoins look primed as well, so might have a little bit of a slow time of it compared to Sol and Bitcoin and probably ETH as well. But I don't think they'll be too far behind. Litecoin's a decent bounce. Pretty solid turnaround there. We finish close to here, reclaim that 200. That'll be positive for Litecoin. SHIB's sort of been trudging up the whole way along here. That's a good W pattern too. Although it pretty much did that whole run on the breakout of that level. So it could go sideways for a little bit there. All right, let's have a quick look at Qs. Meh. NASDAQ and S&P 500 seem to have been buoyed by Tesla's results last night, which we were talking about Tesla's potential island reversal, and I didn't get my BTCC account set up or funded in time, so I missed that move, unfortunately. But this is still an inside candle, so I'd consider this a vector recovery. The fact that we haven't actually fully recovered this means we could have another upside day, but in general, this just looks like sideways consolidation. Potentially still a pullback into that 19,600-ish level over the next week or two. Could be a pullback into the election. We'll just have to wait and see. If something happens and Trump says something stupid and Kamala looks like she's going to win, like at the moment, it looks like the markets are pricing in a Trump win. If there's some sort of shit that goes on between now and the election, then that could be a catalyst for the pullback. So just keep an eye on that. But at the moment, that pullback seems to have been halted, or the excuse for the liquidity run on all the shorters is that Tesla's earnings were good. Equal weight Qs is kind of flat still, so it's been probably showing that there has been a bit of a pullback, a bit of a retrace in the market in general. It's just the Mag 7 have been really smashing it, sort of holding it flat. S&P 500. Interesting that we're holding this trend line just. Yeah, that's pretty close. So we've got durable goods tomorrow. Jolts as well. next week. GDP growth. So it'll be an interesting week next week. For the time being, this is looking weak. Like momentum is looking like it's pulling back. Pretty well a reset of BBWP as well. So if this can kind of eke its way down, it'll probably freak a lot of people out. I'd expect if we close below this wick, or even if we trade below this wick, it'll probably flush down to the 50 EMA on the daily, so 56.90-ish. I know a lot of people calling 56.60 potential pullback. It'll be somewhere around that 50 EMA, I would think. Now, whether we bounce and reclaim this trend line or not will be interesting. You can see here we are kind of slowing down on these moves. So, like, that was a pretty good rip up. Just when you put a line across the tops here and you look at the slope on them, I think I've pointed this out before. Like, we're slowing down in these runs. I think we're getting close to a decent correction. I don't know that it'll be like a depression, recession type thing yet, but I think we need some sort of decent pullback before going on another run, or we need some sort of catalyst to say, market's good, let's go to the moon again. It just seems like we're waiting. There's distributions, there's big guys selling big chunks of banks and stuff like that. So, but when we look at equal weight S&P, it's already done a lot of the legwork on the pullback as well. So just I'd be paying more attention in terms of a proper bottom to the actual equal weights here, just because the big guys are really shielding what's actually going on under the hood. So IWM, decent bounce there by the look of it. Sorry, just I mean, it's still kind of a down day, but momentum's still to the downside. It'd be hard to buy at this point, I would think. Still looking for some support around this level. To be honest with you, though, probably 214 will pull it up. Freak people out with a bit of a sweep of this low here. XLI is pulling back. Still needs to find some support in this pocket here. So over the next few days, that 50 EMA, if it comes up to around 134, that could be a potential support point. XLY, XLP is actually pushing higher. So that's suggesting that there is some underlying strength in the market to support a bounce. Banks are still going sort of up and to the side. Nothing hugely concerning there yet. Home construction's found a little bit of support. It is getting low on the stochastic momentum, so this could be getting close to a bottom. Still potentially like to see it come back into about 115. DJI gold is still dropping though, so again, this is kind of, it's supporting the pullback in the equal weights, but I think proper pullback seems to have been either hidden or it hasn't happened yet. I'd like to see a turnaround in DJI gold before I start to get too excited about general market upside. Interesting, VIX has had an up day, kind of ish. It's it's actually primed for a bit of a spike. So this week, the coming week, like between now and next Friday, could see a bit of volatility, a bit more downside, which, I mean, Bitcoin hasn't really been going with the market. It's been doing its own thing to a degree. So we haven't got today's read on the skew yet, but it was flat yesterday. So yeah, interesting to see what the skew is doing after the close today. It's a real pain that this isn't a real time indicator. But check this one out after the close and see what happens. If this is still pulling back, like dropping, then chances are there's more market volatility to come. But if it's starting to bounce, then that could be first signs of a proper turnaround as well. Hong Kong market still kind of flat, bit of a sideways consolidation here in this range. Still potential to sweep down into that 50 EMA there, in the 618 level. Certainly not getting a hell of a lot of interest at the moment either way. Japanese market might be finding a little bit of a bottom soon. Now, Treasuries has potentially found a bottom. There was some big dark pool activity happening on Treasuries. I wonder if there is a dark pool indicator. Nah, I don't think that's anything. So TLT is probably finding a bottom here, to be honest. Pretty well recovered that wick now. This vector candle here. Probably not a bad time to be buying TLT. The bonds market seems to be telling the Fed they're not super happy with how he's doing things at the moment, but they're also repricing on the assumption that there isn't going to be an imminent recession. So I think those that were watching my videos then when we just had this massive drop in yields, I was wondering why we went so deep so quickly. Like, that just seemed to be pricing in way too much of a drop, basically imminent recession and really quick drop in interest rates. But obviously they've realised that's probably not going to be the case. It's going to be a bit slower than that. But again, potentially this could pull up into the 4.29, but I'd say we're probably going to find a bit of resistance around this level. And hopefully this kind of just bounces around for a while and comes to term with the speed that the Fed's actually going to cut. But yeah, the 10-year going on such a high run has kind of run out a little bit. Not super concerned about that. I think they're just pricing. Well, the 10-year is probably pricing in more of a longer term recession and a move to the yield on the assumption that the stocks aren't going to bring as much in over the medium term. So copper's really stuck in a range in this between the 382 and the 0.5. So kind of doing the same thing that the Chinese market's doing at the moment. Really, it just needs to wait for a breakout on that, I think. Momentum has just ticked out of the bearish control zone. So copper's, I think, still a pretty good buy at these levels. Gold, yeah, it's holding up. Recovered that vector, so expect probably some more downside on gold. In fact, I might pull a little bit of my position out. Silver's pulled back a little bit harder, and it's still struggling to keep above gold, but it is trending up still in terms of its performance versus gold. Oil, interesting little pullback. Kind of undecided on oil at the moment. Momentum's ticked to the upside, but we need sort of a confirmation either way. It's got a lot of moving averages to the upside to break through, so it may take a while. I'd say once we get through the 200 and reconfirm, then we'd be going to the upside. But could hold here for a mini, like a pullback on the S&P 500 and NASDAQ as well, if that happens. Dixie's hit the target and it's pulled back now, so 103 is target for a pullback, which would see a little bit of a bounce in Aussie dollar, and although that's interesting. So Aussie needs to reclaim that 200. It was support there. It has proved resistance today on the Aussie dollar. It really needs to reclaim that. We got here, let's see, 30th of October. Next week's going to be a pretty big week for the markets, and so a pullback into all these things is definitely on the cards. I would expect to find some support on the Aussie dollar soon, which would suggest Dixie's going to pull back a little bit harder. Japanese yen, interesting to see if they actually intervene here, and if they increase interest rates, that'll kind of throw a spanner in the market. That could actually trigger a pullback in the US dollar and potentially a pullback in stocks with more carry trade kind of stuff unwinding. But that's one potential catalyst anyway that you need to keep an eye out for. Euro found a pretty good base off that bottom of those vectors there. So Euro to pull up into that 200, Dixie to pull back into its 200. I think that would make a lot of sense. I think we actually got a new read on this. Did we? No. Fuck. No. Take a while to come out, those reads. Pullback in 50% of stocks above 50-day moving average. Seems to have settled on that 200 for the time being, but looks like there's more downside to come. Apple, the Mag 7. So this is what's supported the market today, I think, and particularly Tesla. And look at that, far out. What did I say the other day? I don't think it'll stop at these levels. I think it'll potentially hit the 280, maybe even 298. I wish I had got in on that. It's unfortunate. I was looking at it too on the short time frame. That was a good fake out from the market there. We talked about it yesterday. And yeah, I don't know if Tesla's even considered risk on at the moment, but it's had a flow-on effect across the market, I think. 22% move. I think it was in after hours, it was over 50%. Oh, sorry, 14.5%. That was close. So Tesla will probably keep going from here. It might have a couple of sideways days, maybe pull back into this vector a little bit. So 250-ish would be a pretty good buying point, I think, if it comes back that far. And yeah, Nvidia. So these other guys kind of benefited a little bit in that they haven't dropped as much, but I think that probably there's potential for them to still pull back more. Apple might just keep coming a little bit. It has bounced off this trend line, but there is obviously some people with that on their charts thinking that's a pretty good buying point. I'd kind of like to see more about what it's doing into earnings and then react at that point. Triple M, wow. Oh, it just had its earnings. Bit of a whipsaw there. So positive surprise, and it gets slammed. Earnings. Yeah. This market's ridiculous at the moment. I guess it must have had, it had a massive surprise to the upside at its last earnings, and people were obviously expecting a bit more from this one. So they're selling out. Amazon pulling back. The reason I kept 3M on there is it's kind of a little bit of a bellwether for the overall economy. They sell a lot of shit into a lot of different industries. Meta still pulling back. Certainly wouldn't consider this a bottom at the moment. We haven't really recovered that full vector candle, but we don't have to either. It might just come up and retest that 20 moving average around 572 over the next day or so. AMD, good bounce off the 200 at the moment, but still not looking particularly strong. Airbnb is struggling to get through the 200 still. Bit of coiling at the bottom here for ASML and even SMCI as well, coiling at the bottom. So good earnings for these guys will send them pretty well through the roof. It had a bad earnings last time. That's needs to turn that around. This split. Split's probably what's holding it up at the moment. This could really drive markets too, actually, this result, given that it is a chip stock. All right, I think that's probably about it. In general, looking for a bit of follow through on the market. Interesting, CME is actually quite a bit higher than the rest of the market at this stage, so that's something to keep in mind. CME does lead the way sometimes and just show you where price is going to go. Particularly now Wall Street are more involved. That's a big price difference. Don't often see that. So would not surprise me in the slightest if Bitcoin hits about 68,800 some stage today before the close. Otherwise, there could be a pretty big gap on CME to the downside tomorrow. We are just clearing this high volume area as well, so yeah. Gonna be an interesting day. Again, shorter time frames, I think, are the key here. So looks like, I mean, we could bounce off this one period Bollinger, but it looks like it A good target would be around the 67,800 for another bounce. I had to put a massive gap between CME and the rest of the exchanges. But yeah, everything is kind of still trending to the upside at the moment on all these little indicators I've got. Definitely DMI's cross, stochastic momentum still the upside. We haven't actually even gone into the bullish control zone yet on this particular smooth momentum. And yeah, traders dynamic index is kind of still trending up on the midline. Shorter period DMI here, which basically then looking to combine a longer period and a shorter period DMI for some confirmation on some shorter term stuff. Yeah, MACD's to the upside. Everything's trending upwards still. So be looking to see what happens around here. Be looking to buy back in, to be honest, around that level. Just see how far it goes. There's not a lot of liquidity. Well, sorry. When we look at the liquidity side of things, there's a little bit further down, but these guys might get lucky. We might get a day where it just rips into these and then moves to the upside again. The fact that open interest was decreasing there. What you want to see is open interest sort of increasing on the way down. It's going to be a pain in the ass and not load, isn't it? Sometimes this thing just does not like to load for me. Come on. What a pain in the ass. Anyway, yeah, I'd like to see, there we go. I'd like to see this thing start to turn around before I got too excited. It still seems like there's people in take profit mode at the moment, though. Good topping signal there. You're looking for a decent bottoming signal, along with just general price action around key moving averages. That was a good fake out there below the moving average. As you can see here, like this was we broke through the 200 EMA, didn't really confirm it. That was a nasty looking candle there. That looked like it was going to follow through, but found some buying support, recovered that vector, and then moved to the upside. So the whole way along here, we haven't left any vectors really. That's why I think there's more in this yet. Just looking in general, if we go out to, let's say, 2 week, you can see, yeah, we've left some behind here, but there's still plenty to go for up top too. It's probably more to the upside than there is to the downside. On the daily, it looks pretty heavy to the downside, but if we go out to the 30-day, actually 30-day looks the same. Oh, sorry, yeah. So 7-day, there's a bit to the upside. It's just a matter of whether it wants to tidy this up to the downside first. This was actually last night before the US market opened. The upside liquidity was higher than the downside. So we may swing back down, pick up a bit of this, back into the 66.5 sort of maybe. But at the moment, it's hard to go against Bitcoin as I've said before, it's more looking for bottoming signals and moves back to the upside, I think. All right, that'll do. That was a longer one. Catch us later.